Story 1. My local supermarket accused me of shoplifting, even though I did nothing wrong. I went in every morning during school to buy pastries from the bakery section for breakfast. One day, a staff member I didn't recognize approached me and outright accused me of stealing, claiming they had caught me on the security cameras. I asked how he knew it was me, and he said, "Because you have long hair and are wearing a school uniform." I pointed out that many girls my age have long hair, wear school uniforms, and come into this store. The answer was likely most of the student population in our town, but he ignored me and said I was banned from the store. He was unreasonably intimidating and aggressive, considering I was just a 16-year-old girl. The next day, my dad came with me and confronted the staff member for 10 minutes. I was quickly unbanned, and I never saw him again at that store. My dad was a legend. Story 2. I am banned from multiple subreddits because I committed the offense of being subscribed to other subreddits they do not like. Story 3. I was browsing a women's fashion subreddit and commented on a few outfit photos with supportive remarks. I was temporarily banned because I had not subscribed. When I reached out to a moderator about the ban, they permanently banned me for contacting them. When I expressed that it wasn't fair, they blocked me. It's frustrating. Now, I focus on supporting the community over at the men's fashion subreddit. Good riddance. Story 4. Primary school library. A fight ended in the library, and I grabbed a hardcover book from a display and hit the other child with it. I was in 4th grade and was banned from the library unless I was there as part of a class. I graduated at the end of 6th grade, and the ban was not lifted. I am 40 now and am probably still technically banned. Story 5. I received a permanent ban from a food subreddit because someone claimed that a dish was German food, and I disagreed. The moderator called me a food Nazi. This was my only ban, either in real life or online, and I find it quite humorous. Story 6. It was late at night, and I had a random question in my head. I asked how someone with no arms can masturbate. The next thing I knew, I was banned. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. It was just a random question. Story 7. The March Madness bracket competition at a former employer always awarded last place 10% of the pot. I calculated that after a certain number of people entered, I could ensure a return by performing poorly. I ended up with about $200 for my 16 seeds reaching the Final Four and was told to never play again because I took the fun out of it. Story 8. I was banned from an old job for calling out our human resources manager for borrowing money from a 19-year-old staff member for an abortion and never paying her back. Later, she became pregnant again and drank heavily at work while denying that she was obviously pregnant. The other managers still allowed me in when the general manager was not present. Story 9. I was banned from a local coffee shop for life after I accidentally spilled a whole tray of drinks on a regular customer's lap. He turned out to be the owner's brother. Story 10. From a poker Twitch channel, I said something like, "You're so precious," as a joke. He flipped out and permanently banned me. Story 11. Not me, but I have an acquaintance who is banned from the United States because he was helping the Iranians enrich uranium. Story 12. Golf course near home. A few friends and I rented 2 golf carts to play around when we were 17. It had been raining, and since our decision-making skills were not developed enough to consider future consequences, we ignored golf in favor of some drag and rally racing around the course. We got a cart stuck doing donuts in the mud, went airborne over some sand traps, and crashed into a tree. When we returned to the clubhouse, I expected to get in trouble, but saw a notice saying back in 15 minutes. So we quickly left. Naturally, they had all my details, so one phone call later I was back there cleaning it off and paying to repair the fiberglass roof that broke. I am still banned from renting carts many years later. Story 13. A bar in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I got into a fight over something trivial and broke a pool cue across a man's face. He pulled a knife and I swung the pool cue. We both were banned for life. The bar closed several years ago, but I don't know why. Story 14. I worked for Target. I was hired in college for the Christmas seasonal position. I believed that the customers or guests would make the job challenging, but it turned out to be the verbally abusive, power-tripping team leaders and managers. By my second shift, I was reprimanded for laughing when a team leader was getting red in the face, screaming about how slow I was unloading pallets and stocking. I had foolishly helped guests when they asked questions. The store manager attempted to intimidate me, suggesting I might not be a good fit, but backtracked when I agreed and removed my name tag. The manager issued a stern warning that I would be banned for life from working at Target if I laughed again at management. That was the end of my 7-hour career there. Story 15. I fainted while donating blood, specifically at the pinprick part. I fainted so hard they said I can never come back. I didn't eat breakfast, which didn't help. I also faint at the sight of my blood. I am literally blacklisted. I tried again years later, but I am still on the list. No blood for me. Story 16. Annie Ponderosa in the greater Kansas City area. The joke is on them. Technically, I am banned from the entire state of Utah. Story 17. A bar by the hospital called Intensive Care Unit. We were young, and the bartenders there were rude to us because we weren't in the medical field. We were simply bartenders and chefs. However, they offered cheap drinks and always stayed open until closing time. The problem started when they would cut us off after just one drink. We never got rowdy or inappropriate. We just apparently used the pool table too much. Since we were all over 6 feet tall, every time they treated us poorly, we would walk out with one of the pool cues. It was surprisingly easy to slide it down a pant leg, cover it with our shirt, and walk right out. They caught on after the 3rd or 4th time we asked, "Where are all the pool cues?" I do not condone this behavior, but at the time it seemed justified. I bet our picture still hangs on a wall somewhere. Story 18. I was banned for life from a grocery store in the 10th grade because I was yelling about Gatorade too loudly. They dislike seeing a young man passionate about hydration. Story 19. A haunted attraction called Atrox features a clown with a chainsaw who revs the chainsaw frighteningly close. Story 20. I was at a bar and, supposedly, I was hitting on the owner's wife pretty aggressively. I don't remember being that persistent, but I was drunk. One of the regulars told me it was because the owner was a homophobe and was disgusted by the idea of another woman hitting on his wife. I had no idea she was his wife when I was talking to her. Story 21. I am banned forever from working for Nike's film department for threats of cannibalism. I think it's funnier not to elaborate. Story 22. I was banned from a chat site because I told someone their head looked like their mom squeezed her legs while giving birth. Story 23. I was removed from a gas station after sliding a magazine under the bathroom door while an employee was inside. Story 24. My ex-girlfriend got upset when I broke up with her, so she fabricated a story about me being abusive. Tinder has a zero-tolerance policy regarding abuse, and I understood that. I got her to admit she was lying, and she even emailed them to say she made it up, but they ignored us. I dodged a huge bullet with her, and I might have avoided getting banned from Tinder. Story 25. A decade ago, I worked at Walmart and struggled with a significant heroin addiction. About 3 or 4 months in, I earned Employee of the Month. However, I was fired and banned from Walmart 2 days later after being caught on camera. Still in my work uniform right after my shift, swapping tags on products before going to self-checkout. They made a big deal out of it and threatened legal action, and I was upset that I wasn't receiving my Employee of the Month plaque. Don't do drugs, and especially don't mix Xanax and heroin. Story 26. The short version is that I confronted someone whom I knew was lying about their profile, and I did so very aggressively. Story 27. The Ontario subreddit. During the pandemic convoy situation, I made a joke that I wish they would take a wrong turn and end up in Lake Ontario. I am now permanently banned. Story 28. I was permanently banned from the subreddit Sino for stating that China's meme game was subpar. This was in reference to the poor edits of Danish flags made during the COVID-19 crisis after a Danish newspaper published a picture of a Chinese flag with the stars replaced by depictions of the coronavirus. Story 29. I was banned from Discord last week for mentioning Mario's brother. Everyone in the conversation was banned, including those who were just making jokes about the situation and a person who sent a completely unrelated message at the time. Another friend used the phrase jury nullification out of context after I was banned as a test and was instantly banned. This happened on a non-public Discord with 15 people in it. Many websites and subreddits are experiencing similar censorship. Story 30. Myself and about 6 others received lifetime bans from our local Liverpool supporters club because we asked too many uncomfortable questions about how the club president and treasurer was spending the members' monthly membership fees. As far as I know, he has done that a few times since but seems to get away with it due to the sheer number of glory hunters that successful English teams attract. Thus, removing the bad apples who challenge him and his dishonest practices is the natural course of action for him. Story 31. Stop drinking. The moderator is too sensitive and tends to react strongly when someone advises her not to drink. She gets urges to consume alcohol and responds negatively to others. Story 32. Reddit for a misunderstood joke. I suggested what could be done about an unwanted streetlight in a rural area. City dwellers. Story 33. I commented on how transgender individuals in the Middle East are often more courageous in living openly compared to those in the West. I have been permanently banned with no appeal available. Story 34. There's a really good Chinese buffet about 45 minutes from where I grew up. About 20 years ago, I was there with my girlfriend and her roommates, and I was really hungry. So I ate and ate and ate. When I was getting my 5th plate of food, the waitress told me we needed to pay and leave. I ignored her and kept eating. When I was getting my 6th plate of food, one of the cooks came out and told us we needed to leave. At this point, I was satisfied, but I was also 20 years old, so I pointed out that it's an all-you-can-eat buffet and I could still eat. My girlfriend was mortified, but her roommates thought it was hilarious, so they weren't going anywhere. While I was attempting to get my 7th plate, the hostess and the manager were both yelling at me to stop and get out, and I ignored them. When I went back to our table with several of the staff still loudly demanding I leave, a guy sitting near us stood up, pulled out a pair of handcuffs, and arrested me. No uniform or anything, just a big guy sitting with a woman and some kids, probably an off-duty police officer trying to enjoy dinner with his family. He slapped those cuffs on me and ushered me outside, with my girlfriend and her roommates close behind, freaking out. We made it out to the parking lot, and he uncuffed me and said, "Don't ever, ever come here again." Joke's on them, none of us paid. Story 35. I was banned from r/World News for using the phrase "sucked in" on a post about United States conspiracy theorist Candace Owens being denied her work visa in Australia. As an Australian, I appreciate the casual use of the term, but the moderators did not understand the contextual flexibility of the language in Australian or British culture. Story 36. A water park was banned for pushing it too hard and sending a tube over the edge of a slide. Story 37. Caesars Casino in New Albany, Indiana. I lost 23 hands in a row on Mississippi Stud and told the pit boss I wanted to ban myself. Acting on pure emotion, I signed papers to ban myself for life. Deal yourself 23 hands in a row and see if you get 10s or better just one time. Story 38. I got banned from the advice subreddit because I don't know how to use Reddit, and I was asking where to find AI-generated pictures of megalodons. Story 39. I received a lifetime ban from the subreddit r/legal advice for suggesting to someone who urinated on a dumpster that they should use the grass instead. They prohibit anyone from giving any illegal advice. Story 40. Someone made a thread asking if they are going to add pronouns to Roblox. A lot of people were criticizing them for asking, and I made the joke. I identify as they/them. Not because I'm transgender, but because I'm roughly the size of 2 people. I got permanently banned for being transphobic because I called myself fat. Story 41. The official subreddit for South Africa has been banned for stating that Trump won the election due to receiving more votes. Unfortunately, this subreddit has a significant issue with politically radical moderators who keep shutting down unofficial South African subreddits where free speech is allowed. As a result, many people in our country have become Reddit refugees. Story 42. I was banned from r/movies for agreeing with Melissa Barrera's pro-Palestinian stance. They apparently don't like that. Story 43. 1. PUBG violation of chat rules. 2. Night Cafe violation of chat rules. 3. YouTube, 3 accounts. I was running low on storage on my laptop and needed space for a project. So I uploaded all the movies to YouTube on 3 different accounts and made those movies private. I thought YouTube wouldn't look for copyright claims, but it did and banned all 3 of my accounts. Story 44. I have encountered multiple conservative social media pages and a gift shop in Oatman, Arizona, themed around Trump and white supremacy, which provided no indication of its contents from the outside. This is all in the context of my attempts to make reasonable comparisons between the Make America Great Again movement and a cult, alongside protesting at different Republican headquarters. My first ban occurred in 1992, so I have been dealing with these issues for quite some time. I have received other permanent bans from protesting, but I successfully challenged them, so I don't believe they count. Additionally, I am permanently banned from being employed by Walmart due to an incident during my brief time working there as a teenager. After several frustrating events where employee safety should have been prioritized but wasn't, I left in the middle of a shift one hot August afternoon when a customer attempted to pay with money retrieved from an inappropriate location. It was wet and unclean. I told the customer, "Excuse me for one moment," walked over to my customer service representative, handed her my vest and name tag, and stated that $5 an hour is not sufficient to handle that type of payment, and then I left. Another comment reminded me of my very first ban. When I was around 12, my older siblings thought it would be amusing to take me to an extreme haunted house attraction. A person with a machete, wearing a hockey mask, grabbed me, prompting me to knee him in a sensitive area. We were all kicked out and banned. My siblings were very upset, but not as much as our mother was when she had to come pick us up. Story 45. The right can't meme suggests that my fellow leftists should not look to the USSR for inspiration. Story 46. I was on Tinder for a week and then got banned. I have no idea why it happened. I suspect it may have been someone who knew me, as I was in a newly open marriage at the time. They wouldn't tell me the reason, which frustrated me. Story 47. I was a member of a video game forum around 2003 when I was about 13 years old. I recall having arguments with other users and not staying there for long. I even remember becoming frustrated while trying to rejoin. Story 48. I have no idea why this happened. The first time I contacted support, I was able to get my account back. The second time, they said it was permanent. I was never inappropriate, rude, or did anything to violate the terms of service. So I don't know. Story 49. It was on an old account, but sometime after Season 4 of Game of Thrones aired, there was a post on one of the subreddits that was just a photo of Halford Bjornsson, who plays the Mountain. I made a comment saying, "His calves look bigger than Oberyn's head," and that got me banned from both subreddits for posting spoilers. Story 50. From the libertarian perspective, saying that if the United States doesn't honor its treaties, it will lose trust from its allies and invite unfriendly nations to cause larger conflicts. This was mentioned before the election. Apparently, si vis pacem, parabellum is a very controversial concept. Story 51. I was banned from a forum for saying I liked performing a sexual act on women in response to someone who was complaining that no one had ever done that for her. I mentioned that there were guys like me out there and encouraged her to keep looking. I was trying to be supportive and not creepy, but maybe it came across that way. Story 52. I was banned from one of the largest museums in Canada because classmates on a school trip decided to climb the totem poles and sit on the ceiling beams. 2 students got over 30 kids banned for life, including me. Story 53. A dentist's office experience was frustrating due to miscommunication with the receptionist. I am usually quite composed, so it was unexpected. I had a toothache and made a last-minute appointment, which I appreciated. However, I could not locate the office. I called for directions, and they kept saying they were next to another business. I was across the street and saw the business they mentioned, but the dental office was not adjacent to it. I asked for clarification, stating that business A was on the left and business B was on the right, so I was unsure where they were located. The receptionist became annoyed and snapped that they were next to it before hanging up. I tried to remain as polite as possible since I was in pain and did not want to upset anyone, but I failed. It turned out the office was hidden away in a completely different building across the parking lot and behind some trees. They were not next to the business they had mentioned. When I finally walked in, the receptionist glared at me. For those who know, she resembled Mimi from the Drew Carey Show. If you do not know, you can look it up. I wish I was exaggerating. Her demeanor seemed directly inspired by the character. She said, "We don't want your business. You can leave." I tried to explain that I was genuinely confused and not trying to cause trouble. She was not receptive and claimed she had given directions there for years without anyone else having an issue. As it turns out, she was the dentist's mother, and he was right there while she berated me. I looked at him and said, "Sir, I sincerely wasn't trying to be difficult. I just didn't know where to go. I've never been here before." He looked down and walked away. I left. I reported the incident to my insurance company. When I told them what happened, the representative said she had to put me on hold to get the other side's perspective. After about 5 minutes, she returned and said, "Well, I can't tell you exactly what was said, but I can tell you this. I believe you. I only wish I had reported the receptionist to the appropriate authorities." Story 54. I was permanently banned on Reddit for several months until the administrators realized I was the victim of a moderator misusing their authority. Story 55. For asking why atheists always blame God rather than the devil. For posting a photo of the Japanese version of Perfect Dark's cover art and the American variant. A humorous email from Blizzard regarding my Call of Duty account. And a question with a screenshot asking which PlayStation 1 game deserves a remaster. For saying Seoul, South Korea, is the poor man's Tokyo. For asking what the difference is between Hunter's laptop and Trump taking hundreds of classified documents from the White House. Story 56. Sub for my hometown. Correctly identified the situation of someone attempting to accommodate family members as additional tenants in a rented house, among other matters. Story 57. I was banned from the r/atheism subreddit when I pointed out that preaching against religion was just as annoying as preaching for religion. A guy responded that I should not reproduce. My response to him included the phrase, "Then your parents should not have reproduced." He reported me and I was banned, but nothing happened to him for using the same phrase. Story 58. I don't know if it's a lifetime ban, but for some reason, a local radio DJ has been banned from both his personal and show's Instagram account. I went through my comments, and I cannot see what I said to upset him. Story 59. I am banned from all school reunions and from the school campus. Story 60. Conservative for linking a Reuters article in a comment stating that it is untrue. Here are the facts. Story 61. I was banned from the Suicide Watch community for a post offering support to those in need and reminding them of their worth. Story 62. Pilot flying J because apparently the person who started working just the week before is more trustworthy in terms of hearsay situations. Literally the night before my cat died and I didn't want to go to work the next day, but I convinced myself to just go in because it's maintenance. I barely ever have to talk to anyone, and it was my first week finally getting full-time hours, so I didn't want to mess that up. I put in my headphones and just worked when I got there. After my lunch break, in comes the store manager, and he pulls me to the back with a very angry expression. We get there, and the first words out of his mouth are, "Do you want to tell me why you're threatening people?" Me, "What are you talking about?" Apparently, the new employee called him while I was on break and said I was threatening him. I'm like, "Are you serious? I've barely said 2 words to anyone today." Don't lie. Why would he lie to me? Because you're easy to manipulate, which is why the only good assistant manager you have here is literally the one on duty right now. That was apparently enough to fire me and ban me from the store. The funniest part of that is that they had someone call me to come back after I left, so I could be told by police officers that I'm banned from the store. Story 63. I got banned from a bar for helping to chase someone out of the venue. The guy was being drunk and annoying, and there was karaoke on. He had already tried to get on stage while others were singing. Eventually, one of the staff members persuaded him to leave, but on the way out, he picked up a stool and started smashing the front of the cigarette machine. My friend and I ran toward him, and he bolted out of the door and down the street. We turned to go back inside, and a bar manager met us at the door and told us we were barred because we escalated the situation. I never went back. The bar closed 6 months later. I won. Story 64. Permanently banned from the subreddit mildly infuriating for saying, "Here before this gets removed for being meta." Story 65. Got auto-banned for posting in a subreddit that was apparently on their "do not post here" list. That subreddit no longer exists, and despite a few attempts at contacting moderators, I remained banned. The only time I actually received a response, they asked if I had posted in similar subreddits since then, which I had not. Literally, nothing changed. Story 66. Almost all legal online casinos in the Netherlands are available. I am quite skilled at sports betting and have received some bonuses in combination with specific casino games. They do not appreciate it when you win. Story 67. I was banned from obtaining my commercial driver's license after refusing a chemical test from a police officer whom I believed did not have the right to request it. The judge ruled that the officer acted improperly, and the entire charge was dismissed. Unfortunately, federal regulations are strict and automatic, leaving me uninterested in appealing, as I have no commercial driver's license and no plans to obtain one. Story 68. I was banned from a major employer and they refused to explain why. However, I believe that after my departure, I may have triggered a significant workers' rights audit that resulted in an entire management team being dismissed and replaced with corporate leadership, which ultimately faced the same consequences. Story 69. I was banned from a pub in Newcastle because I tripped over my shoelace. The bouncer accused me of being too drunk, although I hadn't even had a single drink. He then decided to ban me for arguing back. Story 70. I was in line at a poke shop. A girl came to the cashier and asked for a cup of water. The cashier said it cost $2.99. The girl mentioned she had just bought a bowl. The cashier explained that the owner had stated there would be no exceptions. I made a scene. The next day, the manager informed me that the owner said they were no longer allowed to serve me. They went out of business after a few months. Story 71. Roblox. My sister got banned, and now they think I am somehow her alternate account, despite my account existing since before my sister was born. Story 72. I was banned from a chinchilla group on Facebook because the administrators believed that allowing your chinchilla to drink beer and accidentally dropping a television on them was less harmful than a chinchilla interacting with a rabbit. Story 73. Russia. My grandfather's family fled an area that was previously Finnish and is now occupied by Russia. He and my mother were informed that our family is banned from Russia, which would include me. Story 74. I got banned from my local community Facebook page. She already didn't like me very much. This was shortly after the Trump election when our town became politically divided, and she was on a bit of a power trip. Eventually, she banned a couple of hundred people, and one of them ended up creating their own community. Our city called a snow day the night before, and she was unreasonably upset about the possibility that it might not actually snow in the morning. I pointed out that parents still needed time to make alternative childcare arrangements, and that was that. She banned me. By now, everyone except my mom has been banned. Story 75. I have been banned from Applebee's for about 7 years now. I got drunk and threw a stool at a table of other intoxicated people. In my mind, they were the troublemakers. Story 76. I was banned from a Sheetz location for repeatedly taking down a flyer that was replaced every day for 2 weeks. It was advertising a deceptive crisis pregnancy center. I still visit that Sheetz regularly, but I can't buy beer or show my ID. Story 77. When I was in college, I managed to get suspended from my university for a couple of terms for something significant. I decided to stay in town and work during my break. I mention this because I was permanently banned from a local bar for something far less intense, and I have always found it somewhat amusing. While on my college break, I worked delivering pizza for a local family-owned restaurant about 20 minutes away. The owners were into gambling, and I became interested as well. They started booking bets and asked me to help spread the word and find bettors. Their method involved printing out parlay cards with games, lines, and parlay options. Every week, I would take a stack of these cards, distribute them, and collect bets, earning a small commission for each card. I became well known around fraternity houses, dorms, and a few other spots, including a bar that attracted good pool players who loved to bet. The bar caught me distributing cards and collecting bets. They confronted me and took advantage of the situation before informing me that I was banned for life, taking my photo to display behind the bar. Those guys scared me and I never returned. That is, until I happened to be in town about 30 years later for a football game. The bar had changed ownership and had become something else. My friends jokingly offered to buy me a drink, so we went inside. Lo and behold, guess what I saw hanging behind the bar? Story 78. Not me, my parents' neighbor. In the 1960s, he was banned from the local coffee shop, which at that time was a hangout for teenagers. He admitted to being a bit of a troublemaker, and the lady who ran the shop banned him for causing disturbances. Not long after, he moved to another town. Fast forward to the early 1990s. He returned to our town and decided to visit his old hangout, which was still in business. An older and familiar-looking lady saw him enter and said, "Not today. His name," while pointing to the door. He tried to plead his case, explaining that it had been 30 years and he was now a respectable businessman. However, she insisted he leave, clearly holding a grudge. Since I know people will ask, yes, the shop is still there, but my understanding is that the lady who ran it in the 1960s passed away some time ago and it is now under new management. It was closed for a while a few years ago, but appears to be back in business. And yes, he's still my parents' neighbor. Story 79. Bowling alley in Tokyo. Friends from work and I tried to make bowling a regular activity together. We visited one place twice, but on the third visit, the employees blocked us from entering. Other patrons had complained about us, and they didn't want to wear shoes or touch the bowling balls we used. Story 80. I shared a photo of the headmaster from their Facebook page and detailed the sexual assaults she covered up. Story 81. 2 chromosomes. I was insensitive to a very attractive person who was sick and tired of people hitting on them. I feel bad about that. Story 82. I was banned in less than 10 minutes for asking if women have XX chromosomes in the subreddit 2X chromosomes. I was banned from the subreddit Gilmore Girls for saying Luke was the only good character on the show. I was banned from the subreddit Bath & Body Works for suggesting that the workers create their own subreddit to voice complaints about customers. There are probably a few more, but I can't remember them all honestly. Story 83. For saying that both sides have valid points to a woman feeling upset about withdrawing from her partner for political reasons. I now understand why that would be so triggering in that community. I apologize. Story 84. Banned from the Justice Served subreddit for making a one-time joke comment on something posted in the Joe Rogan subreddit that made it to the front page. And the irony is not lost on me. There is no justice in that. Story 85. Apparently, being against genocide and war crimes is a bannable offense there. It is a disturbing subreddit. The moderators do not respond or inform you about the post for which you were banned. I have seen the same happen to many others, making it blatantly obvious what they are doing and why. Story 86. I have been permanently banned from several subreddits. The most recent one was r/comics for admitting to being a Nazi because I said the American left had too much infighting and needed to unify. Story 87. Families Baptist Church. I had a relationship with my boyfriend and shared the details with my church friends. A teacher's pet was eavesdropping and informed the youth pastor. I was told that I was gossiping, so either the teacher's pet was lying about what she heard, or the pastor was too uncomfortable to be honest. I was more upset about being misrepresented and called a gossip than about being kicked out. Just call me a slut. At least that's honest. Story 88. Australia, and for some reason I currently have -12 karma. I haven't posted anything and have no idea how to increase it. Story 89. When votes were being counted during the 2020 presidential election, the winner came down to 3 states. Biden was significantly ahead in all 3 states, and none of the media outlets would call it for days. I commented about it and was instantly banned for life. I tried to dispute the ban several times and never heard back. I only have viewing capability. I cannot comment, or post anything. To this day, I find it very strange that I was banned for that. Things that make you go, Story 90. from my ex. How, with ease and rightfully so. We were too young at that time. We had different cultures, different views, and different situations in life. We were too far apart, even though it was a fun time. Story 91. I was told I was banned for life by the local theater for sneaking into an R-rated film. They were bought out by Regal, so I should be able to return. However, I have not gone back there in 15 years. Story 92. Leaving a mixed Google review for a restaurant. I was told I was banned when I accompanied friends there 6 months later, so we had to go elsewhere. It was bizarre. Story 93. I was banned from a local comic book store because of bullying from a local group of players trying to monopolize merchandise and pulls. One day, when I stopped by to buy something, the cashier said, "We don't want you here. So after today, don't come back." Story 94. We went to the bathroom at a bar when the bartender said we couldn't be two people in there. I replied, "We're taking a minute. Just give me a second." We were just using the restroom, but I knew they still wouldn't care. When we exited, security dragged us out. Story 95. Upwork. Forget that platform. Someone hacked my account, and they thought it was me. I rarely used it personally, but because they had completed my verifications, they claimed it was me. From what I gathered, someone even asked to go off the platform and used the first initial of my first name for another platform, so Upwork confirmed it had to be me. I contested it when I found out, and they reversed the decision but then banned me again. Whatever. I didn't use them enough to care. Story 96. I got banned from a subreddit for calling someone an idiot. Someone made a post there years ago and referenced another post claiming someone did a great job expressing something succinctly. It wasn't succinct at all, so I made a sarcastic comment pointing that out. This person responded by saying I was arguing with people. And I questioned how pointing out something isn't succinct could be considered arguing. He gave a foolish response, so I simply replied, "You're an idiot." And I ended up being permanently banned for that. It's astonishing that, with all the things people post on the internet, calling someone who's being foolish an idiot could be a bannable offense. Story 97. I was banned from my subreddit because someone admitted they were going to harm their school. They changed their mind and wanted sympathy. I don't remember what I said, only that it was a few words in disgust, and I was banned immediately. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.